Navidad. My name is Dr. Andrew Akhaphong, your registered dietitian, and we are at the Juniper Apartments party room right next door to the Minnetrista Mackenthun's Fine Foods location. Today, we have for you Max Food Studio. To prepare this appetizer, we are going to start off with one sheet of puff pastry, and this is made with flour. If you cannot have gluten or have celiac disease, there is a gluten-free option available at Mackenthun's, and that is the Sweet Lawrence brand available in the dairy department. Otherwise, if you're not, and you just want to use a regular puff pastry, just check out our frozen department by where the pies are. And so I'm going to roll this out onto my cutting board. And what we are going to do is we want to stretch out this puff pastry as wide as we can to the width of the cutting board, so that way we're able to get 12 squares out of this. And while we're rolling the puff pastry out, we want to make sure you're not pressing too hard, because if you do, you're going to have really thin areas in your bake, which could end up breaking. There may be holes, and then you'll have some leakage in the ingredients such as the cheese or jam. And while you're making this, also make sure that your puff pastry is at room temperature, because otherwise it's not gonna roll very well at all. I'm gonna give this a quick little flip. Now what you can also do is, if your puff pastry is too warm, feel free to, don't do that. Make it nice and taut. If it gets a little too sticky, add in a little bit of flour so that way it doesn't stick to your rolling pin or to the cutting board. So that's almost about the width of my cutting board. And of course, it's going to expand a little bit more while it's baking too. So to cut this into 12 pieces, you can either use a knife, but it's going to be a lot easier if you're using a pizza cutter like me. So I'm going to be cutting it into 3 equal slices, and then the other way into 4 to get your 12. So now I'm going to bring in my 12 well muffin tin, and this is pre-greased with cooking spray. And we are going to grab one of the puff pastry squares and pick a well to fill to start off with, and stretch that into the well as you can. See that? I said well many times in that sentence. So if you have some overhang of the puff pastry, that's okay, because you're going to get really fun, cool shapes. And when I eat a puff pastry, honestly, that big bite is one of my favorites because it's super flaky and buttery. So in addition to, we got Fontina cheese right here. Fontina cheese is one of my favorites because it's super melty, very creamy, has a sweet but light earthy tone to it, and in addition to, it's going to give you that creaminess. If you can't find Fontina cheese, great substitutes include brie, or you can even use Gruyere as well. So this recipe for the 12 bites, you're going to be using a whole block of whatever cheese you choose. And with this, we are going to be cutting this into smaller pieces. We're going to be cutting this in half, and it is a little bit difficult, but if you wet your knife, it's going to help the knife not stick too much. So we got that cheese half right there, and again, cut this into equal pieces, about 12. And then if you don't get 12, you also got the other half. We don't want too much cheese, because then if you do, it's just going to flood out and cause the puff pastry to be really soggy. So I got that. We're going to be putting one of those cut Fontina cheese cubes into that well. And next we have a hot pepper jam. This is one of my favorites. This is a Calabrian chili orange jam, and it's very spicy but also very sweet because of the orange. You can use whatever pepper jam or even pepper jelly that you prefer, or if you don't like a lot of spice, this recipe works the same with a fig jam or even an orange marmalade. So what you'll do is you'll add a little bit, about half a tablespoon to a tablespoon of the jam, and then we are going to top it off with a little bit of fresh thyme to give it some brightness, as well as chopped pecans to give it some crunch. And then what you will do is do that for the remaining wells in your muffin tin. To get this ready for your bites, set the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want to put it in the middle rack so that way there's enough air circulating around your appetizer. And so close the oven and you'll bake that for about 15 minutes or until the pastry is golden brown and flaky. All right, I definitely want a piece with lots of hot pepper jam on mine. And this is going to pair very nicely with a Minnesota Nice by Carver's Creek Winery. And it is their hot dish red flavor. And this winery is actually located in Alexandria, Minnesota. Red wines pair very well with spicy food such as this. I love the flakiness of the puff pastry. Puff pastry is just one of my favorite things. Definitely spicy and sweet, but the cheese definitely helps mellow it out.